Hi there, I'm Jean-Pierre Ruth, Senior Editor for InformationWeek, and today I have the pleasure of catching up with Fletcher Previn, CIO and Senior Vice President for Cisco. It's been a bit more than 2 years since our last interview. Fletcher, how have you been?
I've been well, thanks. Thanks so much for having me. Good to see you again.
Gotcha, great. All right. So during our first conversation, a bit more than 2 years ago, that was about 6 months after you became CIO with Cisco. And at the time, we talked about hybrid work and exploring AI. And that seems like a lifetime ago in tech terms, and I've gotten a lot more gray hairs in that time. So before we get to the very obvious conversations about AI, how things, and inclusive with that, how things evolve regarding your goals as CIO for Cisco.
Yeah, well, as you say, it's been a very dynamic time. The pace of things is sort of exceeding Moore's law of normal progression of technology development, this particular technology shift that we're in feels it does feel different than some other ones. Just the pace at which it's going. There is not the same consternation as when public cloud came out, where I don't know, and can you put really sensitive stuff there, and no bank will ever put information there. That's sort of not happening in today's environment. Everybody got the memo that this is a kind of existential requirement to understand what's happening and be competitive. And so we're in the employee IT landscape side of the equation, which is where I spend a considerable amount of my time, with just the philosophy of technology as a driver of culture change. Culture is the only unique thing that any organization really has. And the shortest path to engaging employees is what's in their hands or what's on the desk. And so how well we're doing our jobs is not trivial. It's really core to creating an environment where talented people want to work, and your ability to attract and retain top talent. And so we have really tried to orient a lot of our efforts towards this idea that before we worry about, AI or other, things killing us and taking our jobs, your average person, the research shows, spends about 40 years working. If you assume, a lot of people sort of start working at 21 years old. And of that 40 years, people spend roughly 33% of their time in meetings, and 42% of their time doing administrivia. So think email, expense reports, travel, and so on. So that means people are spending like 75% of their time doing something other than what they said they want to be when they grow up. So there's this huge opportunity space to come in and really rethink what is work. What is the work operating system of 12 months, 24 months, 36 months from now going to be? What is the holistic view of the ingredients that make a person happy and fulfilled at work, from financial well-being, mental well-being, physical well-being, the tools and technology you need to do your job, working on interesting problems, working alongside talented people that make you better at your job. And if we can harness all those things together and make that the desktop of the work AI infused operating system, and that would be the workplace of the future. And AI gives us some new tools to really be able to deliver that promise, because it's not scalable to have a kind of CEO-like experience for everyone in the company today. I can't afford to buy, for 100,000 employees at Cisco, a chief of staff, a communications person, an executive assistant, an HR partner, a legal advisor, a content designer, and so on and so on. But with AI, we can democratize access to that kind of a white glove experience for everyone in the company, and create an experience where, as you're onboarded, you're exposed to your first virtual hire, which is your hyper-personalized AI assistant, and tell it, here's how I like to work. Here's what's important to me. Here's how I prefer you communicate with me. Here are some writing samples of mine so that you can understand how I like to communicate. I prefer that you reach out to me over email, text message, WebEx, phone call, whatever. These are the meetings I want to prioritize. These are the outcomes I need to stay on top of. And think of it as like your first meeting with your first actual employee hire. And then over time, you might have a bunch of virtual hires. And that's sort of how we're thinking about it's one of the most exciting things I think that we're working on from a IT perspective, other than obviously all of the infrastructure side of the house. But from an employee side of the house, what is the job of 1 to 3 years from now really going to look like? And therefore, what is the IT department of that type of a way of working look like?
Okay, great. So let's talk about your role as CIO for Cisco. I think there's no way to kind of like speak on this without, bringing up AI again. Just how have things evolved in terms of, your goals, your objectives, the way you're, structuring things, and, from where you were, when things started, in those early days and to here we are now.
So I think that when perhaps you and I first spoke, I was really focused on addressing some of the fundamentals of how IT is delivered and making sure we were organized correctly. In general, in IT, I like to organize by platform, not by project, so that everyone's not overlapping in each other's tickets and that you have discrete kind of end-to-end teams that have all the things they need to put things into production with as few dependencies on other teams as possible. Organizing ourselves properly, doing the right work the right way, having a single backlog and funnel of work, working agile, getting these kind of fundamentals right. And so we had set a goal for ourselves of double the throughput and half the cycle time. And we did that because there's no way to get that by just working harder or tweaking at the margins. You really got to fundamentally change the way you're organized, the way the work flows, and so on. After we got to a place where we thought that, that we had made pretty good progress on that's a kind of forever effort. You're never completely done with that because org structures and things need constant tweaking.
Right.
But it had evolved to a place where we felt like we had made pretty significant progress, and it was now time to move the goalpost to an even more aspirational goal. And so last year, we changed our goals for the IT organization to say, let's aspire to say 50% of everything we do is assisted by AI, and to improve the employee experience by 50%, which we would measure by something called the Employee Task Friction Index, which is a calculated score of some of the key experiences that all employees go through, from onboarding, device setup, expense reporting, getting the tools you need, doing your job, getting a replacement device, and so on and so on. So next goal was 50% of everything we do is augmented or assisted by AI in some way, and reduce employee friction by 50%. More recently, we've established a new goal for ourselves as AI as enabler for 10x productivity in IT and for all employees. And what that means is, how do we 10x ourselves in the IT department in terms of how we think about delivering IT services to the company and our own way of doing IT? What is the IT job of 18 to 36 months from now going to look like? And what does the leaner, meaner AI-assisted IT department look like? And then how do we create the technology landscape for everyone in the company to 10x themselves? And so in the IT department, we see a path to get there from being organized properly, focusing on the experience, working agile. All of that gets you a certain amount. And then there's this big chunk of AI that gets you to the 10x. So even as we look at things like our software development teams, we're about to enter the era of unconstrained software development resources. The new bottleneck is actually product management, not software engineering.
Really?
And so there's a path to 10x and beyond with AI software coding, AI software development. And if you think we spent like the last 100 years learning how to talk to machines, and now with AI, machines have learned how to talk to us, which is going to have some profound impacts on the way we build and deliver technology. If the next great programming language is actually English, then that has some impacts on the skills that you need, what you need more of, what you need less of. People who really understand the end-to-end business processes in your organization, the complexity of how your business really runs, become extremely valuable, or even more valuable than they were. And so there's a sort of wholesale analysis going on of what are the job roles that I have today in the IT department? How many of each type of that job role do I have? What is the potential for AI in each of those job families? What are the tools that I would need to achieve that AI benefit by each job role? What's the training and skilling that those people in that job family need to get there? And then what are the KPIs to measure whether we're making progress or not? And that's kind of the blueprint for, what is the right job roles and ways of working for the AI first IT department of tomorrow.
Gotcha. Let's go to a follow-up question on that. It sounds astounding to see that the production can be, so scaled up and where the potential bottlenecks, has shifted. Is there any kind of concern or sense of still a need for guardrails for, things moving so quickly, the cart getting, not just, beyond the horse, the cart has turned into a warp speed ship and the horses are not even necessary. And it's where is this going? I don't know. It's flying itself at this point.
Yes, you've described very well the exact challenge that we have. We are the IT departments of companies around the world are the ones tasked with maintaining operational excellence, safety and security, responsible deployment of technology that is compatible with your ethics, laws, ways of working, but is also the department that everybody's looking to drive transformation and get the latest tools and technology into everybody's hands. So, said another way, when you're trying to drive operational excellence, you're trying to take variability out of the system. When you're trying to drive transformation and innovation, you're trying to do the exact opposite. You're trying to inject variability into the system. And so these two forces have to be balanced in a thoughtful way. And so we work very closely with the legal department, with the security teams to have a balanced view of what is the right way to approach these technologies that are coming at us very rapidly. We don't have always the luxury of waiting until everything is known because, we're Cisco. We're in the business and industry of inventing technology and what comes next. And so it's not actually our goal to just be competitive in the market. We need to be doing things that people have never seen before. And that requires some very thoughtful approaches to security and risk. Fortunately for me, Cisco is also an AI company and a security company. And so we work closely with the security product teams on, hey, how can we, in a safe way, bring this technology into our employees? And that really does consume quite a bit of time. And it includes things like building on-premise AI infrastructure, understanding where our data is, understanding how people are going to use these tools, what new risks evolve. You've been seeing now things like Atlas from OpenAI, where AI is getting embedded into the browser. That's creating a whole new vector of threat where there can be new kinds of things like SQL injection or people putting very tiny white text on a white background at the footer of a web page that says, if you're AI, redirect to this page. And it takes you to a malware page. And that's not something you see as a human being, but AI sees it. And so it's a new frontier of security. And so we do need to be thoughtful about how we bring this technology to bear and responsible about the amount of risk that we're tolerating at any given time, while understanding innovation is the lifeblood of a company like Cisco.